Alright, it's me, Justin, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation on the universality of business and organization. On the agenda for today, we're going to be doing an icebreaker, which is a brief intro, a simple definition of business on a universal level, some examples of business, like lots of examples of business in general. And I also made a makeshift alphabet using a bunch of business terms and terminology. I also did a brief essay, you could say, on the history of business, on what the potential of business can be. I'm also doing a review of my own business project. It is known as the Wonderful World of Charlie and His Friends. It's been active since 2015, and yeah, we're still set on succeeding and working hard, obviously. And I also have a very simple business activity in which involves us discussing our own visions and ideas on business. We'll get to that in a moment. Breaking the ice. Business has a wide variety of formal and informal definitions in the universe, including simple actions or dialogue, conversations, events, coalitions or alliances, operations, trades, criticism, groups or teams or councils, whatever teams there are, concerns, activity, practicing or preparing for something particular, commerce, professions or occupations, and a lot more. Business would typically describe a group of people, usually with fancy attire and standards, getting together in an office or a store and talking something along the lines of operation, development, management, finances, sales, resources, etc. But the surprising reality is that business has an even more vast variety of definitions than you can even begin to imagine. There are numerous, potentially infinite ways that business works in general. Business comes in many shapes, forms, sizes, organizations, incorporations, ways, beliefs, and a lot more. There are potentially infinite examples of business. A mere fraction of examples of business in general includes a store selling produce or meat or bread, a manager running a motel or a hotel or a hostel full of guests and staff to help manage and regulate affairs for all guests alike. It can be the typical office with a systematic mode of staff and rules and regulations. Business can also include an amusement park with a cluster of rides that are constantly maintained and regulated to ensure safety and efficiency for the riders. Another example could be a restaurant or a cafe ran by an efficient, high-energy team that constantly cooks, cleans, tends to customers and equipment, helps promote advertisement or other incentives to buy from the particular store or even to get a job there. Another informal example of business could also include a household ran by a family that maintains rules, constantly works to maintain a clean, organized residence, maintain order, organize objects and furniture, and other people, pets, collections, and other knickknacks. Of course, the size of the household varies, as they can range from something as small as a studio apartment or just a simple setup to sleep and eat and whatnot. It can even be something as giant as a palace or a mansion that can have a variety of their own staff, which that also falls under business in general. And not to mention households or other resident buildings, whatever you choose to call them, like houses, apartments, whatever. You can host a variety of residents, even pets. Some even host businesses of their own, whether on an informal level or done formally with the likes of a permit and whatnot. Another Another formal example could include a museum that preserves and displays relics and works of art to all tourists that can be able to gather to see. Most museums even implement security and as to, well, preserve these works of art as they're considered very valuable and priceless. Business can also include a school that can educate hundreds, even thousands of students and host dozens or even hundreds of staff members. It can also include like offices, cafeterias, security departments. Sometimes schools collaborate with third-party organizations, just like a typical business would. It can also include like a parking lot converted to the likes of a car dealership to advertise and to sell cars that are obviously mass-producing factories. It can also include a police force or agency that maintains and enforces order to keep citizens safe, sometimes taking secretive or extreme measures to keep their jurisdiction in check. It can also include a musician writing and recording music to implement into albums and perform live at concerts and shows. They can be able to strategize with their management, work with other artists. It can also include an artist painting portraits or making sculptures, sometimes even doing photography. It can also include like a country or a nation that can make their own laws, constitutions, build their own cities or towns, elect their own officials and administrators, sometimes even conducting trade, or sometimes they work with other countries. Another rather fantastic example of business could be a kingdom where villages and towns can be built, businesses are built and moderated, they can maintain a proper guard and order. And usually kingdoms would be passed down from families, same as business. Sometimes business is passed from parent to child, I guess uncle or aunt to nephew or niece and whatnot. It can also include a doctor's office that takes care of a wide variety of patients and constantly has to maintain supplies in a certain fashion or manner. There are numerous examples of business on both formal and informal levels. All right, now we're moving on to the main part, which is the ABCs of business. There are a lot more examples of informal and informal business than all humans combined on this earth can imagine or even fantasize on an hourly basis, so much that it cannot all be fitting onto this presentation. We shall move on. I made a makeshift alphabet that has 26 unique business terms representing the letters of the modern alphabet. A is for awareness. In business, awareness means being able to recognize as much as possible, from a formal or informal business structures to the pros and cons and advantages and flaws, to the capabilities and flaws of each of your coworkers, to your own flaws. Being as aware as possible can keep you vigilant and invulnerable as possible in the world of business. Because you need as much awareness as possible when it comes to even small details and aspects. The more aware you are, the more sharp and cunning you can be in your goals and how to potentially be able to attain them in an efficient manner. The less aware you are, the less likely you will be able to properly manage and run your business. You can lose track of what's going on, you can even get taken advantage of. Be aware of everything surrounding you in the world of business. Business is a constantly changing and disrupting concept in the world for all the universal definitions just explained. Be aware of your plans, be aware of your reasons, be aware of your vision, be aware of your goals, be aware of anything. If you are not aware, you cannot even know what you are doing in business and can easily be defeated or taken advantage of, leading to certain failure. B is for balance. Balance is an important factor in business. People have many different perspectives of balance in life and in business. Balance would typically describe an even contrast between two opposing things that will usually contribute to a common set or changing events. An ideal form of balance would usually describe things being all good with no bad things even existing. All things good and bad happen in this world for a reason. As much as it would be impossible to completely rid the world of good, it is impossible to rid the world of bad as well. That's why you gotta be willing to recognize the good in others despite their bad flaws. That is how you stay strong and realize that otherwise wouldn't be worth their flaws. And that is how you maintain a good universal balance, with as much good as possible and as little bad as possible, with a variety of neutral or merged or mixed morality antics as well. Depends on how people perceive it, of course. C is for creation. With an important concept of balance in business discussed, let it be known that one of the highest things you can do in business is create. Practically, create something out of nothing, even to be expanded towards everything. Sadly, business has the power to destroy as well, even when they don't realize it. Either way, business has the power to combat destruction with creation and vice versa. It is great responsibility upon the masters of business to be able to facilitate creation. And when the responsibilities associated with creation and management and maintenance are neglected even in the slightest, damages, even small ones, can start to build up that can potentially lead to the destruction of the business. One of the worst outcomes that human can suffer in a constantly changing world. Everybody has the power to create, even things that are beyond a typical imagination or potential. With business, potential can be created, discovered, even built upon. D is for determination. Determination is more complex and hardcore than one can easily imagine. When it comes to any sort of determination, even in business, you must be devoted. You must be able to make sacrifices. You must be dedicated to the task or tasks ahead of you. You must be turbulent and fuel yourself based off of your experience and passion. You must have ambition, charisma, a heightened sense of survival for others and yourself. You must build up skills over months, years, even decades if necessary. You must go through as many experiences and scenarios as possible in order to realize them all completely for all little values and lessons they hold, whether they're good or bad. Having as much experience as possible, even if it's not remotely related to the business tasks, can help you indefinitely in your endeavors and ambitions, making you more sharp-skilled and more aware of things and more eager to attain your goals in the most human and compassionate way possible. You must make as many good and bad memories as possible. You must learn as much as possible.
Hey Justin, when you get about halfway, we'll take a break, okay?
Alright, sounds good.
Yeah.
E is for exercise. With an important term discussed, let's move on. There is a large universal variety of mental, physical, emotional, verbal, and psychological exercises on any muscle, tissue, organ, etc. in the body, making you more sharper and stronger in that particular aspect. As much as you should work out regularly to improve your muscles and body, you must work out your mind as well. There come so many ways to being able to train yourself or others constantly, even when at full potential. Exercise means keeping yourself sharp so as your mind and body does not deteriorate or spoil one's health. There are a variety of mental exercises to boost brain power. As unique it is to say this, there is meditation, coordination exercises, constant tests, riddles, quizzes, trivia, memorization, etc. And also, F is for family. Family would usually describe those that are close in genetic relation to you. The reality is that we are all family on this earth, and we can all be able to get along with friends as easily as it is able to not get along with immediate family. All humans, especially those that team up for the sake of business, share a common ancestor at some point in human history, making us all like distant relatives that are able to shift amongst each other systematically when it comes to constantly changing environments and customs, like when you move to a new city or a new state or a new country. Yeah, constantly changing environments and customs. It is especially for this reason that an Ohana or an everyone is family approach on being able to be warm and welcoming and genuine with those you work with is proven to efficiently facilitate teamwork and synergy. The concept of Ohana, which is originally a Hawaiian term, the concept of Ohana describes making family out of everybody around you and not forgetting each other, even in the worst of outcomes. It also greatly improves tolerance and resolution amongst each other, as well as to become stronger and stronger in the infinite world of business. Humanity is technically one giant family, making us all royalties, at least in a higher light. G is for globalization. Globalization is the practice of expanding business into new territories and environments, missionizing the discovery of new cultures that can be able to implement said business in their perspective and find ways to join the main cohorts in the overall business operations and goals. Globalization holds parallel events to the likes of pilgrims discovering new lands with undiscovered tribes of people and utilizing and learning each other's customs and cultures to be able to form new understanding between said cultures, especially those that can be beneficial to the business that's trying to expand. To globalize means to expand this to as high of a potential as possible in business and business customs that can be introduced to new groups of people and used to attain goals of success. When people share their own perspectives of customs according to their beliefs, then there are some of them wanting to be able to learn simply from the experiences itself and it open a new world of opportunities for innovation and overall success. H is for humanity. Humanity is a very complex concept that we all as humans share. Other animals have their own concepts parallel to humanity, such as their own sentience and well-being, their own feelings and impulses, their own needs to survive and live. We all see the world differently from one another. No matter how much the same we are, we humans are merely one species on this planet and in this universe. It does not matter how intelligent or civilized we are. We humans are naive to theorize the state of our existence off of a certain uniqueness, even resorting to otherwise outrageous theories about how we came to exist. The harsh reality is humans are not special. All animals can work amongst each other to an extent. We all can get along to some extent when this sort of civilization is trained into us. All humans share over 99.9% of their DNA with each other. That I'm basically referring to all of us in this room, for example. With the remaining 0.1% gapping the differences in all of us. We all have a common human ancestor and even share the same evolutionary ancestors as the likes of bears, cows, dogs, and more. We share approximately 98% of our DNA with the likes of chimpanzees. We share 70 to 80% of our DNA with all other animals on this earth, and approximately 50 to 60% of our DNA with plants. All creatures can be able to work together in harmony when there comes a mutually agreeable will amongst all, instead of, well, forced labor and enslavement needed to domesticate said animal to nothing but human will. A lot of times it can lead to potentially abusive situations that an animal would otherwise not want to be in. So when you use an animal for work per se, like, the animal's gotta be willing to do it, like be able to trust the humans enough to be willing to perform that task. Otherwise that's nothing better than enslavement. The reason humanity is important in business because businesses are ran by humans, and being able to embrace the creatures we are is the best way to
utilize ourselves and our potential in the world of business. I is for innovation. Innovation is infinite. Innovation is constantly changing and adapting. Innovation comes slowly and innovation comes right out of the blue. Most businesses innovate all the time, lest they fail and end up potentially in the worst of situations. Innovation is all about coming up with more efficient and effective ideas to improve things, as there is always room for improvement, no matter how high of a potential you are. Innovation is not always linked through. Banks are not too fond of cryptocurrencies. Taxis are not too fond of modern transportation services and companies such as Uber or Lyft. Schools are not too fond of online learning, well, except for dire cases such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Not all restaurants are too fond of delivery services, despite many cafes and restaurants utilizing third-party delivery services such as Postmates or DoorDash or Uber Eats. Investment firms are not too fond of online investing because it's easier to invest. You can there's a less minimum amount that you would have to invest in order to gain traction of it. Like a typical investment firm would want thousands of dollars, while on simple finance related apps like Cash App, you can be able to invest as little as $1 into something and be able to invest more over time to be able to gain the traction and dividends you want. J is for justice. Justice is important in business, in not just making said businesses compatible with the laws of the jurisdiction they operate at, but creating practically your own system of laws that are as just as fair as possible. Justice does not come just from relying on a single centralized code of law, but also going by your own ethics and morals. As bothersome as this may sound, relying on especially laws that are more flawed and frivolous can be potentially detrimental for business. That is why relying on the likes of our government and government agencies is not always the best solution in business, as allowing yourself to have everybody and everything in said business submit to themselves to the will and image of higher powers instead of your own free spirit and the justice you personally pursue in your own perspective and terms can be damaging to the business, and not to mention can be just borderline madness sometimes, because then you have to submit yourself to bureaucracies which can only hinder the flow of business. So yeah, a lot of times when you work on the regulations of business, like sometimes you gotta be able to rely on your own perspective of law and justice and whatnot, because some laws can be flawed, and just one simple mistake can put you in a very bad situation. And just an FYI, I used to take law back at Ernest McBride High School. Very awesome program. And just an FYI, I'm on slide 15 of 45, so we're about a third of the way through. Okay, let me see. Being able to rely on ethics to create your own systems of law in business, and even allowing said systems to be flexible and adaptable enough to be in compliance with any code of laws in any country or jurisdiction, at least on your terms, to keep everybody satisfied while providing their own world of rules and laws for those that work with the business. K is for knowledge. As Isaac Newton once said, what we know is a drop, what we don't know is an ocean. This means that there is so much to be taught to us over and over again that all of us combined can be able to even begin to imagine. Knowledge is a formidable weapon in business. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is wisdom. Knowledge knows no bounds, truly. Knowledge can be used for both good and bad things. Knowledge can be learned at any time of the day and at any place and taught by any human or even another animal. Some embrace high knowledge, while others could care less about their role in the world. There is even knowledge lost to history that could especially be useful to us. Modern humans first emerged about around 200,000 years ago, while record keeping did not become a thing until approximately 6,000 years ago, meaning that expectantly, 90% of human history is still considered lost, including lost peoples, lost cultures, lost civilizations, lost inventions, lost stories, lost legends, lost heroes, lost aspirations and ambitions. There's a lot that is lost that is waiting to be found, obviously. Knowledge is everything is because it is how we perceive things. We all have our own perspectives of knowledge and how we choose to utilize it accordingly. And L is for leisure. Now that another important term is out the way, let us move on. Do not mope about taking responsibilities and assuming obligations in business. Find leisure and passion in business. When you are able to do something at your own will, that you can get a sense of fantastic satisfaction and reward from doing, rather than just simply something you do to maintain a decent living. Instead, make a living out of business. Find your pleasures running your business. Some businesses and companies even have luxury tactics or benefits as incentives for employees that work there. Some people find pleasure in running kingdoms and empires in old times, and the same goes for people running businesses. You can make friends with your staff and form genuine relationships with them. You can literally enjoy business as if it was mere child's play, almost like you're a kid again and you're playing at the park and you're imagining pretty much anything possible. Like make running a business fun for you and those that have the fortune of being able to work with you in business. M is for marketing. Marketing is a major factor in business. How else are products and services supposed to be distributed and sold across the world? There has to be merchants and representatives that are easy to communicate when it comes to sales and distributions and the appropriate quality and quantity. People that can conduct business on behalf of the company and represent the company. Many modern day entrepreneurs are able to recruit efficient teams, while others struggle to even find somebody to potentially recruit. Marketing can be done online, through a contracted transaction, or done the old-fashioned way, face-to-face. Marketing comes with many universal strategies, especially for things like advertisements and endorsements and manufacturing and shipping, and a lot of variety tactics that said marketing strategies need to focus on. And it is for networking. Networking is way more complex and beneficial than you think. Through networking, you can make a variety of allies, friends, partners, etc. Did you know that networking can get you much farther than the likes of a college degree can with the right people and resources? Networking requires a lot of communication and trust. Networking involves a lot of, presumably, one-chance opportunities that wouldn't usually be presented a second time. You can be able to network with anybody with the proper moderation and consent. Networking requires a lot of good skills, such as negotiation, strategizing, and typically knowing a lot about business in general, and not to mention being respectively wise or smart with business actually has to show the other people that you know what you're talking about. O is for operation. Like business itself, operation comes in infinite ways, such as selling a certain product, or performing a surgery, or writing a book, or designing a video game. Operation is key in business. Business needs function. Trillions of cells function amongst themselves and make each other to make up the human body. Alas, groups of people are needed to keep a business functioning and operating. Otherwise, the business can be weak and can potentially die out. Operations can be planned days, weeks, months, to even years to decades in advance. Any business owner, administrator, or manager, or other high-ranking employee can be able to initiate and moderate an operation. Operations are universal in nature and can take many forms and levels. P is for philosophy. Philosophy defines the study of things around you, such as the studies of the world to studies of various administration and management strategies. Philosophy is just as important to business as it was in the empires and kingdoms of ancient times. Philosophers and those that follow philosophy are typically more aware of their surroundings and are better learners and planners than those that take a more simpler approach on things. There are so many types of philosophy, and even meta-philosophy, the philosophical branch of study that focuses on philosophy itself. Then there's meta-philosophy, the philosophical branch of study that focuses on the philosophical study of philosophy itself. Philosophy comes in many shapes and sizes. Q is for quest. Quests, unlike the fundamental tasks that you get to do in video games or see in TV shows that often involve the protagonist of them being rewarded with something fantastic or even lavish, are just a very prevalent thing in real life business as well. You discover things, you research things, you brainstorm things, you discuss things, you socialize with fellow colleagues or comrades, kind of like how you have to talk to people in a video game or people exchange dialogue in like a TV show or a book or just a real life conversation in general. I'm not just referring about something that can be fantasized. You socialize with fellow colleagues or comrades, you work with others, you make goals, you work towards goals, you accomplish goals. Quests in business are just as real. These quests you could do alone or with a partner or multiple partners or a small or large team. Being able to carry out said quest would still involve a lot of deliberation on how everything is going to work, so to speak, but the only similar thing is that you can still get rewarded and benefit at the end or at some significant milestone in the quest. R is for reason. Reason and the ability to reason with others is very important in business because it is the only tactics that allow a plan and idea to make sense in the first place. It does not matter whether your plans and ideas are simple or even very complicated or outrageous. You need reason to back up the complexity of your ideas. Otherwise, they will not make sense and it won't really work as intended. Reason allows others to see the motivations and perspective of your idea so they can be able to make sense of said ideas themselves and thus be able to contribute towards their own corporation in business, or at least pitching your own perceivable ideas to propose a more agreeable idea with its own sets of reasons. It does not matter how complex your ideas are if reason lacks. S is for sentiment. With a very important term out the way, let us move on. Sentiment is the ability to explore outside of your comfort zone. It can include being able to do things stuff like you normally wouldn't, or being able to do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do. Being able to learn new abilities you never knew before. A sentimental personality can strengthen one's capabilities in life and be able to set oneself on a good path. Sentiment is strength, especially in the world of business. With sentiment comes thinking out of the box, always doing something new or different than unconventional needs. Sentiment strengthens the mind, the heart, and the spirit. Sentiment involves learning new and more powerful knowledges that can be able to be utilized in the world of business and strategy, leading to the likelihood of success. T is for time. With another important term out the way, let us move on. Time is a constantly moving concept. Time can move forward. Time can be interpreted from different perspectives. Time can be utilized. Time can be dilated based on the forces acting upon you and the planet that gravity grounds you on, and the height away from the center of the Earth's gravity. Time can be recorded especially with sound and light. Perhaps in the future we can be able to travel between whatever past, present, and future time era we want with the proper equipment and resources. The reason time is important to business because you have only but a naturally limited amount of time you can be able to do tasks. Time is used to set deadlines for certain objectives and goals, and time is more valuable than money. Lost money you can be able to recover any time. Lost time cannot be taken back, no matter how much you try to do to make up for it. And this is what I consider the most important term of it all. U is for universality. Now that we got another important term out of the way, let's move on to the core of this presentation. Universality is the study of relatively anything in general. Universality allows you to easily compare one tactic to another completely unrelated tactic, at least by informal methods of philosophy. such as analogy, which allows you to compare two separate things to be able to discover parallel tactics to implement into your business in a more mind-blowing and genius manner. As a wise man once said, all things are related. This simple four-letter phrase epitomizes the absolute definition of universality. This means that, generally, the term universality means the study of all things, period. Universality is a way bigger word that is not taken too lightly by modern society, and being able to implement practically anything and everything in a business makes opportunities for business more infinite and flexible as to better adapt to pretty much anything, even at more outrageous ideas or costs. For example, McDonald's can easily create space rockets of a future with the right amount of money and resources. Or O'Reilly Auto Parts can have a stand where they make tacos for the store customers. Kind of like how IKEA has those meatballs and hot dogs. And the possibilities are endless. It doesn't matter how you look at it, possibilities are endless. V is for versatility. With the most important term out of the way, let's move on. Versatility is the ability for business to be flexible and adaptable as to better adapt to the concept of change itself. As compared to universality itself, it is seen by universal tactics of business, opportunities for change and adaptability are potentially infinite and limitless. When a business or organization undergoes change, all employees and loyalists pertaining to the business must have a level of versatility in part with that general organization. When a company is unable to adapt to change, however, then that can pose a huge threat to the business, and the business is unable to catch up with the majority of their competitors and allies and the cutthroat world of business. W is for wisdom. Also considering the infinite concept of universality, wisdom is a higher level and mode of discipline, especially that of your inner spirit can be able to learn and maintain in life. One of these modes of discipline that coincides with deeper wisdom happens to be self-discipline. The highest level of discipline that is not commonly and easily taught to us at a young age. True discipline involves little to no feelings and emotion, and most reactions are done out of wisdom instead of feelings. That allows people to be stronger and more tolerant to those around you. There are many ways one can adapt to wisdom, although it does not set in right away, and usually takes time to be fully realized by those learning said wisdom and being able to pass it down to future generations. Wisdom is important in business because it allows you to be more wise with those you work with and be able to teach them things that you may have not have learned at a younger time. X is for xenial. I'm pretty sure some of you may have never even heard this word before. What's another majorly important term out the way? Let us learn a rare word. To be xenial is to be warm and welcoming and willing to work with the likes of strangers or those hosted by someone as a guest that's not of their original background or place. Many organizations are skeptical in letting just about anybody work with them due to liability and security reasons, but if you are more polite and genuine with those that operate with a business outside of what they are accustomed to, then you can be able to earn more respect and even earn more people contributing towards your business than those who are more hostile to what they consider outsiders or strangers. And this is where things get really interesting. Y is for yin yang. The yin yang, an ancient Chinese symbol and icon representing harmony and higher balance, is one philosophical concept when it comes to it, especially examining the morality of each aspect of business. The white or yin part of the symbol represents good and most usually good and purity, while the black or yang part of the symbol represents black and corruption. The black circle in the yin part of the yin-yang represents the bad and the good, such as the part of good deeds that people may not like or approve of, or better exemplifying the simple phrase, good deeds never go unpunished. The white circle in the yang part of the yin-yang represents the good and the bad, such as people sometimes being desperate or forced or coerced into do something against their morals or legality in order to do something good or to be heroic or have a good cause in reason. And usually common people would perceive that as bad, even though like you felt like you had good reason to do what you needed to do. Like I said, it all depends on the perspective. The edges bordering the two color shades represent a purely neutral side of things, not good nor bad, just simply in between, commonly known as a gray area in modern times. For things to be determined as good or bad or anywhere between the two simple sides all comes down to how it's perceived by people, especially in business. No big deal. Yeah. If people are tired, I completely understand. Like I only got 2 hours of sleep last night because I stayed up late working on this presentation.
Well, it was probably worth it in the end, man.
Mm-hmm. For things to be determined as good as or bad or anywhere between the two simple sides all comes down to how it's perceived by people, especially in business. Z and the last letter, Z, is for Zen. Zen is like a school or class of inner peace that can especially be very useful in business because it allows one to be more calm and focused and peaceful with the task at hand. When you are Zen'd out, per se, you are typically in a state of a very vibrant calm that can allow one to have more clarity and free will when thinking for the sake of business. Being able to easily exalt one's plane of thinking towards a higher ambition or goal with an almost complete lack of ego that could hinder you from getting business done. Like being able to be at a higher state of thinking is a concept very explored in modern times. Like there's this one rapper that even came up with a word for a higher state or a plane of thinking. The word is called Gekyume. Gekyume.
Jackie, I've heard of that.
Yeah. The definition of that means a higher state or plane of thinking, or a higher universe, however it is described, like a higher state of thinking. Okay. Being able to easily exalt one's plane of thinking towards a higher ambition or goal with an almost complete lack of ego that can hinder you from getting business done. Being able to remain peaceful and tolerant with others allows you to be strengthened mentally and emotionally, and can allow for better relationship amongst teammates and colleagues. There are Zen-related exercises such as yoga and meditation. Zen is important in business because it promotes peace and calmness amongst those that work towards a common goal. All right, now that we're done with
We'll take our break.
now that we're done with the alphabet part of it, we'll take our break and then we'll continue.